Hello and welcome back around the bonfire. It's the show reminding you that if you're still voting for MLS All-Stars, stay in line. They can't turn you away. They have to count your vote. We've been gone for a little bit here. It's John and Tim, but maybe more importantly and most importantly, we have the handsomest man in Chicago Fire sports media joining today, Joe Chatz of On Tap Sportsnet and WLS. Joe, it's good to have you. First time on since the title change. We're happy to have you.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. I needed that gas up right now. It's always a good vibe.
Look, dude, let's be honest. That is not much of a compliment, though. Like,
halfway through that, I did have that thought, but we're gonna move on and smile through it all.
The last time Joe came on and I paid him a compliment, he was like effusively, like very appreciative, and this time he's kind of just like, crapping on it, for lack of a better word. I don't appreciate that, Joe. I don't have to give compliments up here.
Well, I
okay?
love you no matter what.
I'm
still in adoration phase. But yes,
well,
it's been. As Tim can tell you, again, my social battery was on like 0 by the end of this weekend. So maybe I'm just not on it yet.
Yes, look, everybody, busy weekend for both of these guys with the USMNT in Germany and Chicago. Tim, you're here too. I hope all is well. I think we both checked out a little bit. It's good to be back. Have the gang back together though.
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. Some of which we should be ready to launch hopefully after the World Cup break, which is because this is MLS before the World Cup final. So looking forward to that.
Well, you can't imagine all of those guys are going to be gone. But hey, if Chicago Fire get lucky, maybe, just maybe, Lionel Messi makes another run to the World Cup final. They face Inter Miami without Lionel Messi. Let's kind of dive right in. We don't have like a super structured.
Yeah, it'd be Vancouver without Seb
I
Berhalter.
thought Miami also fell into that range. Excuse me.
They're after, but I mean, also it's entirely possible that Lionel Messi is like, I'm just done after this, regardless of the contract extension, and who knows?
Austin, cut this part out. Don't put that in. That was embarrassing.
Keep it in.
Yeah.
This is how we get back into 90-minute fitness, guys.
Yeah, that's true. This is like the one time a year we have to watch Austin FC play a game. Preseason, not a lot of eyes, but it's important because this is how we get ready when it matters. Look, let's dive in. Not a ton going on in the world of fire. The one thing I do want to point out, we forgot to put it in the outline. Hugo Cuypers and Mbekezeli and Mbokazi officially named in the first 11 for the MLS All-Star game. Exciting stuff. I think that's cool. I don't remember the last time the Fire had 2 starters in the MLS All-Star game. Tim, Joe,
don't you want to go to Charlotte on a Wednesday? There's just nothing better.
I'm sure that they're
for your hard work.
Does Mbokazi know what Charlotte is? I don't think he knows what Charlotte is yet.
There's an only chance that Zaha put it on the map. I'm serious. It would have to be from that.
I don't know. Well, if they watched the documentary, guys, Tim Ream gives a glowing review of Charlotte. He's very happy to be there, and that matters to some people. Granted, neither of these guys are American.
People lie to the media.
I mean, look, in terms of places to go,
it's fine.
It's bottom half of the league, but like it could be Columbus.
I actually like Columbus a lot more, and Columbus in July is going to be more pleasant than Charlotte.
I don't know what I did to have both of you guys come on here. Like we're everything he says, I'm going against it.
I'm not trying to do
talk
that.
A little
My question is,
well, now
are they going to rip out the
challenge.
fake pitch that people were complaining about because it wasn't? I mean, it did look like an actually terrible pitch. Is it just going to be back to the AstroTurf by the All-Star game? I'm assuming yes.
Who knows?
For the Panthers,
Who's to
you'd
say?
think.
Yeah, I don't know that David Tepper is willing to pay for that amount of water to keep the grass alive. It seems unlikely. To your point, though, Tim, about like MLS returning before the World Cup break, this is such like a cluster of a late summer of Leagues Cup, All-Star Game, World Cup, MLS returns. I would be lying if I said I knew what order those things happened in, except I know the World Cup final is not first.
Yeah, exactly. It's like back to MLS for a little bit, and then it's the Leagues Cup in August because they couldn't possibly miss that historic sporting competition. And like that's also a new format where it's like 3 games in the space of a week, so only 1 weekend game because of the group stage. And I mean, all 3 are going to be at SeatGeek for better or for worse. So those pigeons will be eating like kings from all of the food and stuff like that. That I'm sure that they think it's like left, and the people that work there are like, yeah, I'm not taking.
I hadn't thought about bird shit corner in a minute in the press box, so that was interesting. But notably, of course, Leagues Cup makes it so there's another Fire and Stars game at the same time, which you know is always my favorite thing, especially when they're both in market.
It's, oh my golly. Well, look, all I know is that after the mention of, and sorry, Austin, because you'll have to bleep this out twice, Bird Shit Corner, I think we've just found something of an off-season program that we can discuss. We'll have Joe back on when the year's over to discuss the ins and outs of SeatGeek and what that actually means. Look,
is this the only time in history that Bridgeview has seemed more appealing than Evanston? This could be the only time in history that Bridgeview seemed more appealing than Evanston.
It's not. I can promise you. I enjoy my little press box, storage box up in Evanston. It's quite pleasant. But
say what you will about like the everything else of it. Like the view up there is great. Like it's a
fabulous.
Beautiful place to have a stadium.
It's so nice if you have the right layers on. I'm serious. Like that's kind of the determining factor.
No, I fully believe that. Let's dive in here because we're just talking about nothing at this point. Not a ton in the way of Chicago Fire news. We mentioned the All-Star stuff. Exciting. We'll break that down as we get closer, I'm sure. And hopefully the strength of South Africa may carry one or two more players onto that team. Another quick piece of news, the unofficially official friend of Men in Red 97, Paul Tenorio, his new book, The Messy Effect, is officially out. They had a pretty cool release party at Soccer House in Chicago last week. So that was kind of cool to see some of the ins and outs there, to catch that online. Tim is holding up the book. Yeah, they got invited. That's fine. John didn't. Not that
it wasn't like an invite thing.
To go to.
Yeah, but I wanted somebody to reach out, you know?
That's very sweet.
This is a joke, guys. This is a bit. Okay, let's not get too serious.
I also have the book. I had to prove myself. Sorry.
All right, well, I you know what I have? I have a copy of The New Yorker with Jalen Brunson. Nixon 5, baby. I'm being realistic. Anyway, go check it out. Don't buy it on Amazon, but buy it at your local bookstore. Shout out Madison Street Books. Yeah, go buy it at your local bookstore. Give it a read. Paul Tenorio, wonderful guy. And
you've actually been in Madison Street Books? I've walked by there a million times.
That's where I buy all my books.
That's amazing. Same.
Yeah, my guy Wayne.
All right, shout out Wayne.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. Look, West Loop, if you're ever in the area, Madison Street Books, best place in the world to buy a book. Main point, though, go there and buy Paul Tenorio's new book, The Messy Effect. Give it a read. Took a lot of work, and he's, I'm sure, very excited to have it out in the world now for people to consume. Let's kick this off. Several Fire players World Cup bound here. We've talked, I think, in depth about some more than others. Chris Brady obviously making the squad as ostensibly the third goalkeeper, making his U.S. men's national team senior debut in the game against Senegal. Maybe an unfortunate goal, who's to say? Mbokazi obviously featuring for South Africa, expected to start, and Joel Waterman for Canada. The injury to Moise Bombito potentially setting him up for a little bit more playing time. I think one person in the group is a little more optimistic about that than the other person in the group.
I just don't think that they've got a better center back that they could call in. I mean, it's really unfortunate for Moise Bombito, who's, obviously one of the top at what he does in their pool. And but hey, it's an opportunity for somebody. It could be an opportunity for Joel, who did play in Qatar, but was not a starter. I believe that I can't remember how many minutes he had off the top of my head.
Not a ton, but he did play.
Yeah. And look, it's about taking advantage of the opportunities, right? These things are going to happen. And I do kind of wonder if we're going to see possibly a USMNT announcement before, I guess it would have to be before Thursday, because they need 24 hours before their first game, which is Friday. If they decide that like Richards is not going to be fit, at least, maybe for the group stage, I don't know. Like that's a difficult decision for Poch because he is in training. He apparently is training without restrictions the day that we're recording on Monday, but that's also just a thing that you say,
Kind of an interesting role off that Germany game. A 2-1 loss, obviously, for the United States. Matt Freese starting, and if my memory serves me correct, finishing the game in goal. He appears to be the starting goalkeeper moving into the group play at least. And not an incredible performance from that center back group. Miles Robinson, somebody we talked about in terms of when the Fire were facing FC Cincinnati and kind of how his form has fallen a bit to the wayside. Tim Ream, God love him, is 38 years old. And as much as I think we all enjoy him as a person, as a leader, as what he was, is not the player he was even 4 years ago, maybe even 2 years ago. It's kind of an interesting place to be. Tim, you mentioned if Chris Richards can't go, somebody else getting called in. This is already a pretty big defender group. I don't know who you have left to call in that would be
it doesn't have to
better
be a defender,
like for
right?
like. Yeah, no,
you could call in somebody else
yeah.
because you've got you've got pretty much all the center backs that I think you trust in the pool there already. And people have talked about the midfield shortage. I think with the way that they played on Saturday, which by the way we didn't even talk about it being in Chicago, which is kind of the highlight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
It was fun.
I don't know. Yeah. We got to show some Germans at the staircase in Soldier Field,
oh my God.
Which sounds very threatening when I say it that way.
It's just never easy to get down to the press area especially if one of the elevators is strictly for fans and stuff, and it was just not a great day. So we decided to take the stairs, and we were early, but some of the German media didn't trust us about halfway through.
Yeah. You have to go through two different staircases is the thing. So
they don't need to know. They don't need to know the intricacies.
Yeah.
By they, he means me. That's fine. Who cares? Who cares? John doesn't need to know. Anyway, look, yeah, it was a game in Chicago. It was a great scene, and I do love the entire collective world inside and outside of the United States going, wait, why doesn't Chicago have World Cup games? And as much as Rahm Emanuel coming out with The Athletic and kind of walking through what that process was, it does make a lot of sense when you hear him explain it, but it is also like, man, that would have been a lot of fun to have a couple World Cup games in Chicago.
It would save me some money if nothing else, but Rambo's been enjoying his victory lap this week. It's been really great for him. I'm thrilled for my former Little League coach. Like these are big things for him.
Rahm Emanuel is your former Little League coach?
Yeah, Wrightwood Park in 1999. If there's a picture, I'll find it at some point.
Was he like a good coach or bad?
Were you the same height?
I don't remember anything negative, so he couldn't have been that bad. I missed the joke, I'm sorry.
I said, were you guys the same height at that point?
Basically.
Oh, I thought you said, were you the same height? I was like, damn.
No, the same height as Rahm Emanuel.
No, yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah, no, look, it's disappointing, I think. But let's talk a little bit of USA, the Group D outlook. I think that's what most people are interested in. We'll talk South Africa as well. And we may even talk a little bit of Mexico for Brian Gutiérrez's sake. Paraguay, Australia, Turkey, all in that order, I should say. 2 of 3 seemingly winnable games. I don't think that's the first time we've said that about opponents the United States have faced in knockout tournaments. Guys, I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little on the edge of my seat about this group and what that final game with Turkey could look like.
I wouldn't be comfortable at all. They're all winnable games, but they're all very losable games, right? Like these are 3 teams that if you go down a goal early against, if nothing else, it's going to be a royal pain to get 2. Get a point in those ends, like fine, you'll take it in the end, but this is anything but an easy group, and it's going to be a really difficult road. It's one of those things where you need to actually get those points early, and with Paraguay as an opening game, like there's the Julio Asensio injury that's huge, but it really comes down to you want to put yourself in a position early, and hopefully they can do it because it's such a tough group to deal with just because each team has enough quality to hold out, especially if they can get that early goal.
Yeah, I mean, look, the U.S. could, like, all of these games, right? Like, I mean, Argentina lost to Saudi Arabia in 2022. Like, any of these things, like, anything can happen in the World Cup, and the margins are thin. The margins are a little bit thicker because, a lot of the third-place teams will go through. But you don't want to put yourself in the category where that could be a possibility, and you don't want to go into the match against Turkey the way that the U.S. did against Iran in 2022, where it is essentially a must-win game with your back against the wall, because that really plays into the way that Turkey wants to play the game, right? Like they've got talent, but they want to strangle the game, and beat you with whatever they can while doing that. And I mean, so that's, Joe's point about early goals is 100% right. Like, Paraguay is going to be doing some version of the same thing. And the U.S. did battle back against Germany and ended up 1-1 at half, which I think that, to me, makes me feel a lot better about the group stage than if they hadn't done that. Like, it is much better that it was a 2-1 loss than it was a 1-0 loss, or, I mean, obviously more of a marginal loss than that. But the fact that they were able to basically stick to the game plan and actually, like, take it to Germany while playing down, I think is like very much to the USMNT's credit.
Does it raise any red flags for you? That first goal is still sitting in my brain. Like, it's burned in there. Really poor man marking, obviously. I don't love the way Matt Freese played that either. I've also just been very critical of Matt Freese, to be fair. And I think that's what worries me going into this group, because look, you lose to Germany. Honestly, you don't love it, but like, that's life, man. They're a great team. Like, you're going to have
one goal's a win.
Yeah, exactly. But I look at Paraguay and Australia and I think, look, are they pound for pound more talented? Maybe not. Can they get those goals? If you give it to them, right? Like, those opportunities will be there on set pieces.
Well, they don't have Kai Havertz taking set pieces for starters. Let's just put that out there.
Sure.
Like one of the better set piece takers from Arsenal, who are a team that is entirely built around set piece takers. I do think that was a savable goal. I mean, the man marking point you made is 100% correct, but I think that Freese needed to get off his line better than he did. Turner has been more, that's one of the things. Turner, if you look statistically, has not been good throughout his career at those kind of like in the box crosses, and it's partly because he's been very conservative with them. He played kind of like goalkeeper 101, I think, a lot, and that's not, I mean, really meant to be a knock against him because he was elite at it, but it was just the fact that he started playing soccer when he was like 16 and he didn't have as long of coaching, at a high level, telling him when it's okay to do those cheating things and do things a little bit wrong to get something. Since coming back to MLS, though, he's been a lot more aggressive with those. And I think that now the chances that he would have tried to collect that and it would not have been in goal would be a lot higher. Not perfect, though, right? And like, again, it is something that was historically one of Turner's weaknesses. It's something that actually Brady is generally very good at, ironically, for whatever you give up with Brady. I mean, I know that during the game against Senegal, he had that heartbeat length hesitation, which is what caused him to concede the goal. And again, like, that was also some very bad defending from Miles Robinson in front of him, so it's not like it was his fault. Mm-hmm. But we've seen Brady do that before, where you can see he takes a millisecond or two to hesitate, and that's enough where it ends up in the back of the net rather than his hands.
I've somehow talked myself into Matt Turner over the last month in terms of being the starter, just because, like Tim said, he's shown over this last spell with New England to be, if nothing else, the best form of his MLS career, or at least some of the best form we've seen since he went to Arsenal on that deal, right? He hasn't been able to get that consistent football at a top level. Yes, I just said football, and I'm mad about it and really upset at myself right now, so I'm kicking myself literally. But the way Matt Turner's been able to play, I think's been really encouraging. Plus, like, isn't there the X factor of trying to prove yourself once you're kind of out of contract, out of your loan, and trying to do something over the summer? I think that could be a little extra prove yourself for him, and I think that would be really interesting in goal. And for whatever reason, Matt Freese just hasn't been able to put it together in the last few friendlies that he's appeared in, and maybe it's just Matt Turner's game. And obviously, I think Chris Brady has shown an acumen to do enough, but I just don't think he's going to get that chance in this World Cup.
No,
I don't think that Turner does either, to be honest.
No.
I think that the fact that we saw Freese for 90 minutes, I mean, unless he lets in multiple howlers potentially against Paraguay or something like that, I don't think that we see Turner. I mean, it's not the choice I would make. I think that Turner, on top of having met the moment before, is just the better shot stopper of the two.
Yep.
I think that Brady is good. And the other thing is just, I talked about this. I did a couple quick, thoughts about the game that went up on Sunday. But one of them was, if it is Freese here, that potentially puts Brady a little bit further back in the pecking order from being, just someone that you, like, it decreases his chances in 2030 and the cycle between now and 2030 a little bit, right? Because just Freese is in his prime and Turner is, he's going to be 35 at the next World Cup. Now, I mean, we're also in a world where Manuel Neuer and Memo Ochoa are both 40 years old and going to the World Cup, so you never know. But at some point time catches up to you, but if it's a guy that's in his 20s now, then it just makes it less likely.
Also, like, who knows what happens with the next coaching staff is a big factor too. Because I think like this coaching staff has been a huge benefit to Chris Brady, if nothing else. Like he's gotten a lot of opportunities because the specific coaching staff believes in him more than maybe the previous one even did under Greg.
The irony, you guys are both forgetting what Diego Coquen did in practice with the U16s. Okay, he is America's great hope.
Well, I mean, obviously, like, yeah, he does, and he's not going to get it at his current club. Let me tell you that.
No,
but look, I mean, he could get it. Like, it's 4 years, he can easily get a move, right? And in 4 years, he can get a move, and he could be a reliable starter at a level that, you know, Matt Turner was not able to get to become a reliable starter. And like basically it's been since Tim Howard where the USMNT hasn't had a starter at that level in Europe. And I mean, it could be him. I mean, it could potentially be Brady. It doesn't look like it's going to be Gaga Slanina now. It could be Jonathan Klinsmann, Chelsea, right? Like I hope that Klinsmann has a full recovery and is back to shopping stock soon. But you know, he could also push his way in the conversation.
You know, wouldn't that be something if it was Jonathan Klinsmann in goal, Sebastian Berhalter in midfield? Like that'd be great. Okay, let's not do Joe. Don't get me started, Joe. Okay, don't get me started.
I kind of want to.
No, we probably shouldn't. No, the one thing I'll point out, Tim, you alluded. I think you both alluded to kind of the underlying stats per our friends at the American Soccer Analysis. Matt Turner is far and away the best goalkeeper in MLS. The only person really on his level is Brad Stuver at Austin. And then based on their goals added metric for goalkeepers, it goes, and I have these 7 guys laid out because they were all kind of in the talk. Matt Turner, Brad Stuver, Chris Brady, then Brian Schwacke, then Matt Freese. A huge gap between Chris Brady and Brian Schwacke, and then Matt Freese, and then Schulte and Celentano, both kind of below league average right now. So Matt Turner is playing
part of
the
what's
best
remarkable
ball.
about this. I know we've talked about this a lot, but like, there's very few statistics that are truly individual statistics, right? Like Hugo Cuypers is the same guy he was a couple years ago. He has more goals than he did all season in his first year in MLS because the team is playing better around him. And goalkeeper statistics, especially, are hard to isolate individual performances from the way the team plays and stuff. But Freese is on a pretty good NYCFC defense, and he's still looking like that. And Turner's on. I'm really impressed with how Marko Mitrovic in New England has gotten the revs to play as well as they have, but like they are starting a rebuild now for the most part. And the fact that Turner's still putting up those numbers is insane.
And he may not even be there when we come back from all this. That's kind of the crazy part.
I assume, I mean, I you know, what I've heard is that the agreement's there and stuff like that. And it may have actually already been signed and they just didn't want to announce before now, which you know, to Joe's point, like I kind of hope is not the case because, you know, there's a world out there where Poch pulls a little bit of a surprise on us and then Turner plays well and then is able to negotiate for more money.
Atlanta United would be fun. They need a goalkeeper.
He'd be stopping a lot of shots.
That's what I'm saying. There are some fun teams. Put him on Inter Miami. Let him overtake Dane St. Clair. Let's have some fun in the second half of the season.
I think I think a Ford Pinto could overtake Dane St. Clair at this point. Yeah, you guys like that. Old guys.
Don't get rear-ended. Don't get rear-ended.
Yeah. All right,
dude, Dane St. Clair, this is relevant for Joel. Like, one of the issues with Canada is just, like, they have Maxime Croupeau, like, they've got Maxime Croupeau and Dane St. Clair, who are both goalies that have been, like, around the league, never really necessarily the most convincing of starters, and they are both in some of the worst form of their lives. You know?
I mean, Dane St. Clair did win Goalkeeper of the Year last year, too.
And he doesn't look anything like that guy right now.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm saying, but like to say he's never been a stat, like he was until this year considered a very good MLS goalkeeper.
I think that he was very much a beneficiary of the way that the Minnesota United played last year.
That's fair.
He also benefits from having the ability on PKs that has always been interesting, and that's why I think he's always fun for a knockout competition. Having said that, he's in the worst form of his career, right? Like he also has the oldest team he's ever played with in his career, so I'm sure that's part of it. But he is absolutely not benefited, and I think everybody likes Crepeau's story too, even though I think he limits them with his lower ceiling.
And Dane St. Clair, inherently punchable face. He's like Josh Naylor in that way.
Dude,
I just kind of want to hit him.
Large man. Be careful.
Yeah,
I'm
not doing that, dude.
That's a dude. Well, here's the thing, though. But he's got a long arm. Like that guy's got reach.
I'm not saying I would do it. I would never.
Just
I'm sure he's a nice enough guy. Although he did kind of do the whole like evil empire thing. Like
so we've all had
Kevin
that
Durant
thing in our head where we're remembering the PK between Shaqiri and Dane St. Clair. Like that's been playing in everyone's head.
As soon as Joe said PKs, I was like, oh, Shaqiri.
Dude, my God. Shaq was like, who is this guy?
It's ridiculous.
But does he know? This is the one thing I got going for me right now is that I'm great at these.
Yeah.
Fellas?
And it looks like we lost John.
Wi-Fi. But, yeah, no. Hello. Oh,
hey,
there
back.
he is. Don't worry, the heartbeat has returned.
Sorry, guys. I was sitting here laughing, and then I was like, uh-oh, they're gone. Anyway, that's as good a time as any. We're not going to talk about Gio Reyna in this one. You'll have to come back to talk Gio Reyna, Joe. Let's talk.
Good.
Oh, so something funny that did happen in media availability. We got to talk to Greg on Friday, the day before. It was let's just say it didn't feel like the normal level of organization you get from the USMNT. It felt...
There was a lot of people around. Like, they had the insider, like, high rollers at the facility for that training. There was a lot going on, and everything was on a slightly delayed timeline that it wouldn't have been under previous administrations.
Yeah, for sure. And
getting the real scoop.
About previous administrations. So in that gap, Greg was around doing work, and we, were invited to speak to him. And obviously, there's a lot of interesting relevance there of like just where he was the last cycle, where he hoped to be this cycle. The whole thing, I think, is just there's a lot you could read into it. I asked him a question about Seb, just because I think it's cool that you've got like a father-son combination, both going to the World Cup with the USMNT. Obviously, dad both as a player and a coach. Son has really just like the thing that we kept on hearing is like, if you're not really good, like if you're not good enough to get to Barcelona by the time you're like 19, you're not going to get to Barcelona, or wherever. And Seb Berhalter's arc was just, he really looked like he would struggle to stay on MLS rosters a few years ago, and is now a possible starter for the USMNT, which is huge. And, so I asked, Greg, just, what it felt like essentially to have his son going, because it has to be a big emotional moment for him. And one thing that he said was that he was, obviously the emotions thrilled and all that, but he just wanted to be a supporter of his son. And, they never tried to, coach him because he's had coaches, and never tried to be his agent. And I thought that seems kind of pointed at somebody else. I wonder if there's any players on this, the other players on the squad who he's saying maybe dad has acted like an agent for. And you can read into that whatever you will.
On the more wholesome side of things, I don't know if you guys ever watched First Things First on FS1. They had Seb Berhalter on last week. It was just a very wholesome interaction. They're obviously talking World Cup at a kind of surface level. It's like, what's it like? Your dad went to the World Cup as a coach, as a player. Like, what's that like? He's like, man, it's great. Like, my dad is my best friend. And it's like, that's really sweet, Sebastian. That's really nice.
They are very good at interviews where you're introducing people to soccer. It's why Greg is on all the Fox shows that are, sports adjacent or fully sports. He did everything last week, the FanDuel show, and Seb is becoming that guy for the USMNT. He's the guy who goes on McAfee for a reason, right? He has the personality to hold up with that, and he can answer that question in a non-pretentious manner, and it's what's made him charming to a lot of people.
And he gives really good answers too. Like he can give smart, good answers that are not going to say something that he shouldn't say. Unlike some of the other guys, Tyler Adams is the other guy that could do it, and Tyler Adams is, we've seen a lot from him over the past few years too.
You know what, guys? Why are we still talking about this, huh? It's been 4 years. Let's not talk about it anymore.
Seriously.
Anyway, let's talk a little bit of South Africa because I think people want to hear about it. Group A in general, kind of a I don't know. I look at this and I feel very strongly about three of the teams, and maybe one of you guys will know a bit more about Czechia than I know. This is a very MLS-coded group. Brian Gutiérrez appears for Mexico. Hyun-Min Sung appears for South Korea, and then maybe there's somebody on Czechia that I'm not thinking of right now. But South Africa opens the World Cup against Mexico, a little rematch of, what would that have been, 2010 in South Africa?
Yep,
right?
2010.
Yep.
Yeah, that.
And, a lot of other, like, Obed Vargas, like, man, the El Tri really needs to send MLS academies the flowers or a gift basket or something for the products they've been able to produce for the Mexican national team.
Absolutely. Look, exciting to see Brian Gutiérrez go. We'll hopefully be seeing both of those guys, Mbokazi and Brian Gutiérrez, starting in that World Cup opener, which is kind of a crazy thing to think about. I think I wish I could remember who had the number, but it was like there have been 4 active World Cup players for the Fire ever, and there are 3 this year, plus Brian Gutiérrez for Mexico. So it's kind of a crazy number to think about in that respect. Guys, outlook for South Africa, I feel like from where I'm sitting, kind of feels like you're fighting to be one of the third place teams that advances. Does that feel fair?
Yeah, that's probably the goal for them. They need to try to steal a win if they can, right? I think, honestly, like the South Korea game is the most accessible one for them. Czechia's got a lot of veteran guys who have played in top leagues in Europe that are kind of at the end of their World Cup runs. They got a lot of guys who are in that 29 to 32 range, and they're going to be really tough to deal with. And they're the type of team that can easily score twice in second half stoppage time because it's going to go 12 minutes because FIFA World Cups are funny like that. And so I really do think they're going to have to try to steal the game against South Korea, which is obviously not an easy team to beat at all. But, at Estadio Azteca, you just don't want to get embarrassed. And that's the goal for them in the opener, right? They're gonna try to hang on. They're a very talented group, but Mexico in Mexico City for the opener, right? Like that good luck.
Yeah, it's the worst possible position to be in. And this is also South Africa's first appearance since hosting the tournament, right? Yep. Like they made it, ironically, this is, in terms of their history, like they made it in 2002 in, I can't remember if their games were in Korea or Japan. And then France 98 before that. And I think that those are the only World Cup appearances for South Africa. And, I think that this is the beginning of a process for them, sort of like, not exactly analogous, but like where Canada was last time, where they're hoping that it becomes more of a regular occurrence going forward. But it's the first World Cup for all these guys, right? And you could not have been throw somebody into a harder possible matchup than Mexico at the Azteca. Like, just, it's nuts.
They were in Korea, like games in 2002.
Yeah. And France as well. I think that they didn't win in France. They won a game in 2002, I believe. I think they went. I can't remember.
I just clicked out of the Wikipedia page. I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, and my brain is not Wikipedia. So.
Well, they did win a game.
Look, yeah, there's a couple of teams in the tournament. Like with third place teams advancing, there's not many teams that you think they have basically low to no chance of not of making it out. But South Africa is one of those teams, just because of who else is in their group, and it just seems like it's really going to be an uphill battle for them to get a point, let alone a win, and you probably need 3 points to get out.
I think it's reasonable to say it's probably going to take a little bit of heroics, maybe from somebody known for bagging very long, aggressively taken shots. I don't know,
from
fellas.
Altitude. Remember, yeah. Altitude. It's going to be he's going to take one. He's going to take one.
Man, you could get completely wasted if you just played a drinking game for every game that's in like Mexico City or Guadalajara, and anytime anybody says altitude, you have to drink. Like you would not make it through the first half.
We're bringing soccer to the masses, Tim. We have to emphasize the points that a new viewer might not be aware of.
Okay, fellas.
Like it's high at Mexico City.
Fellas, this might be a listener's first time. Okay, they might not know all the intricacies.
And welcome.
Yeah. And is that the impression you want to leave them, Joe?
Let me tell you about a club called Millwall.
Okay, let's not do that. Let's not talk about Millwall ever again, please. No, I think it's hopeful for South Africa of, first World Cup, Tim, as you mentioned, for most, if not all, I think all these guys. And I think the hope is this is a stepping stone, right? It's something that in 4 years you have laid the groundwork to get back, especially if the tournament stays expanded. And now you have, a good amount of young players, including everybody's favorite, TLB, right? Like, who will have some World Cup experience. It's not analogous in a lot of ways, but in some ways I do think a little bit of what 2022 was like for the United States, where it was obviously not the first time in the World Cup, right? But it's like, it was DeAndre Yedlin and everybody else. Right? He's the only guy on that team that went to a World Cup prior to that. So hopeful for them. It would be great to see them get out of the group and let TLB play some knockout games. Although the less chances for him to pick up an injury, the better.
Yeah. No, for sure. South Africa, the 7th or 8th, I can't remember off the top of my head, youngest squad at the World Cup this year. So hopefully it is, looking up for them. I think it obviously hasn't been a ton of minutes, but with what we've seen from Pusita John, I think that it's possible that in 4 years he could, be making a very strong case for making the squad. And the way that TLB has been playing, it's hard to think that he wouldn't be part of the conversation for a couple cycles to come after this. So hopefully it's a good learning experience. You were getting thrown into the deep end with this first one, but the nice thing is, like, they will literally, like, short of like making it to like an AFCON final or a World Cup final or something like that, never have a harder match than this one.
Well, it's also the contrast to the second game, because I'm going to the Czechia game in Atlanta, and it's at noon on a weekday, and it's one of the cheaper games to go to in the entire tournament, right? So the contrast in environments for them, they might be able to come out in that second game like a rocket ship against a Czechia team that, if anything, had a more relaxed first game against South Korea.
Well, and I wish I had pulled it up before we started, but it's like there was some simulations ran, and the idea was basically 3 points and a positive goal differential. It's like 50 or 60% likely to move on, right? So it's like you win one game against Czechia, or even you got a shot if you draw twice. Like, that's kind of the beauty of the new format. You have a chance.
Yeah, I think you really need to plan on getting 3 points, and Czechia is the team that you plan on getting it against.
Who objected to that? I need to know the name of the objector. No, there's no hiding the animal who is objecting to Tim's opinion.
John, you can't mute yourself forever.
Oh, Tim made an opinion and someone clearly had a strong... Okay, sorry. So what do we think? Korea is the accessible opponent in that group for South Korea? Okay.
Well, how long has it been since Sung Hyun-min has scored?
Sun Hyung Park.
Maybe
this
the
is
dog
ridiculous.
has a point.
Oh, my Lord.
He just feels very strongly that South Africa has a better chance against Mexico than some people might think. Pressure works both ways, all right? That's important. And speaking of both ways...
And look, it's like Mexico is a team that has started beating themselves a lot, right? Like they have been their own worst enemy. And as soon as they start acting a little bit like that, their worst enemy is their own fans. And so it's feasible that happens. All it takes is one TLB shot from distance that makes it into the back of the net.
Look, what are the odds, guys? I want you to put if you were predicting a market, let's say, what would you set the market at to start that this game gets abandoned and Mexico loses because the game is abandoned?
I resent the question.
Yeah, I just...
Which part of it do you resent?
But Joe, you have to admit it's a higher that, like, the chance is higher than 0.
65 minutes, 0-0. Mexico hasn't done anything. South Africa's peppering them with shots. It's on the board.
I don't think that's
all
really
I'm
going
saying.
to happen.
It's
but
second
I think
half
that what it would
stoppage
have
time that something weird would happen.
All right. Well, let's move on.
I'm here
let's
for
talk.
it.
I do want to briefly talk Brian Gutiérrez and the opportunity he has in front of him here. Fellas, I don't know exactly the percentage in my head. I think I think we'll see a lot of Brian Gutiérrez at this World Cup. I think very reasonable chance that he could be in the starting 11 for one, if not multiple, if not all of these games. And I think we look at a guy who, has a chance. We look at a guy who 12 months ago, maybe I think two of us at least, maybe not all three of us, kind of looked at Brian Gutiérrez and said, you gotta do something. You're not reaching your potential. And now you have a guy who on the world stage may have his opportunity to kind of reach that potential and take the step that we weren't sure he could take, right? He's played well since he got to Chivas. He's played well in his minutes with Mexico. And now, is there an opportunity for Brian Gutiérrez to try and push for a move to Europe? The one he always wanted.
Chivas doesn't sell you when onto Europe. Like, that's just, I mean, realistically, and they are frankly paying him better than anything but a handful of clubs likely could. I mean, some of the top clubs, like, we're talking clubs that you see regularly in, like, UCL quarter and semifinals, at would be the conversation. And, I don't know. He's gotten so
not
close
getting
to
that
hitting
salary at Copenhagen.
Yeah, no. Right, and like not only that, but like you're not getting that salary in like, Toulouse or like a mid-table club in the Liga. Like they just Liga MX, the bigger teams especially, can afford to pay you like you are at a very good club in Europe, and they do, and that's how they keep talent there, like domestic talent, but also international talent.
And Eltree clearly respects Liga MX players enough to keep them around in the cycle, right? It's been huge for him 12 months ago, right? It's 2 red cards or 2 suspensions due to silly actions within half an MLS season, and we're all thinking, what's happening for this kid? Can he even get on the fringes of like these, United States only players or domestic camp only players in the last year? And he makes a decision, bets on himself, and it ends up being the right call. And depending upon, especially like with card accumulation, that third game, there's a really good chance he could end up starting that third game against Czechia.
Look, he started against Serbia, right? Yep. And he, in some ways, I think was one of the best players on the pitch for Mexico in that one. So it was in Toluca, so at altitude, for whatever that's worth.
Against Pauno.
Yeah, against Pauno, but yeah, which is just
amazing.
Chef's kiss. But look, he had an assist. I think that he had. I saw him really active in the box. Like he's just flying, and that's been what he's been doing. And honestly, like he could start more than a game or two. Like he could be a reliable starter for them throughout the tournament. And Mexico, I think, have to be by far the favorites to win their group. And if they do, they potentially have a case all the way to, I think, through and including the quarterfinals, staying at home. Which, for that matter, anywhere but Vancouver is going to be a home game for them.
I was going to say, would it be better for them to play in the United States? There's a non-zero chance.
Yeah, that's where most of Mexico's games are played these days and have been for the past few years. But honestly, look, the Azteca is just such a cathedral to the sport. Like, it's going to be cool seeing Brian Gutiérrez. Like, I don't root for Mexico, but like, it just is going to be cool seeing Brian Gutiérrez in a World Cup in that environment. Like, it just will.
Look, I'll be honest with you guys. I feel like I am a little bit of second teaming Mexico in this tournament, in part because, I don't know, I feel like last year we were very, very critical of Brian Gutiérrez, and to see him kind of, for lack of a better word, blossom has been very cool, and it would be great to see him continue to do that at this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely been hitting close to his ceiling, and it's good to see, right? And if anything, from a Fire perspective, something the team has been really good at, shout out John Duran for probably the last time ever. When a guy is ready to move on, they've been moving them on, and they've been moving them on to good positions where they're set up to succeed. Doesn't necessarily mean you will, shout out John Duran, but they've been giving them every opportunity to succeed. And, look, Guti didn't go to Chivas for that much money, all things considered, and I think that the Fire probably could have found more money somewhere else and probably could have convinced Guti and co. to accept it, but it obviously was the right move.
And it goes back to the Gaga thing, right? Chelsea was the move he wanted. You see what happens with that. Sometimes it works out well, but they've shown a willingness to let these guys go generally where they want, as long as they can get at least close enough to a sizable offer for it. And that's going to incentivize another cycle of guys to come through this team over the next 5 years.
Look at us, getting it full circle, all the way back to Chicago Fire, baby. Fellas, I think that just about wraps us for this one. Joe's surprised.
Canada disrespect.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Let's do some Canada. Yeah, Group B is a mess. I feel very strongly about that. They'll start with Bosnia and Herzegovina. They'll face Qatar in their second game. Both those will be, well, all three games will be in Canada. What am I talking about? They go Toronto, Vancouver, and then they'll close with Switzerland. I feel like going into those games, the only one I don't feel like overly confident with Canada's ability to get all 3 points, although no Shaqiri, so that's unfortunate for Switzerland in this cycle. Although, look, I do want to say, shout out, people are talking about Neymar as the other World Cup, like Shaqiri is the other World Cup legend of this generation. Nobody wants to talk about it, okay? The only player in the previous 3 World Cups to score a goal in all 3, Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Xherdan Shaqiri. That's a fact. That's just a stone cold fact.
How many people?
Anyway.
Look, there's not a lot of guys out there that have a World Cup hat trick. Like, you know.
Okay. There you go. Look at you. I got Tim on my side. You feel silly, don't you, Joe? Anyway.
But,
Canada,
and also when you mentioned the locations, Vancouver, I believe he's from Burnaby, but, basically Joel's hometown. So that's going to be cool for him. Hopefully he gets to play in front of, friends and family and just like see that part of the dream come true.
If nothing else, the Bombito injury, like we kind of talked about with Guti, card accumulation will give Joel opportunities now to get some minutes, if nothing else. If a guy's on a card late, he will come on and play. If not, he's going to get a start or two because of it.
And because it doesn't take a lot of cards to get you to miss a match in this World Cup under the format. And that really will be an issue. Particularly, Jesse Marsh can get guys to run through walls, and they will, and that gets guys cards.
Yes. They'll also run through people. Fellas, is it fair to say that I think that third game, that Switzerland and Canada in Vancouver, could be for the group?
Yeah, I
feel like
yeah.
Right? Okay, thank you. I don't watch a lot of Bosnia and Herzegovina. I need to be honest with you. I know Esmir.
They had
Kovic, but that's yeah.
They had a tough process qualifying, right? So anything that qualifies at UEFA, they're not just they don't typically get there by luck, although it's happened a couple of times in the past. Basically, if you need a last-minute win against Italy, you just hit the lottery. You just won the lottery.
When you said that, what blasted into my mind is that picture of Italy's team, the Azzurri are on the move, and somebody quote tweeted it to where?
Ryanair, man, the best troll on the internet.
You're right.
Yeah. Look, Qatar, I think. This one I'm pretty confident to say that depending on the way the third place results go through, Qatar's probably the team that's going home after the group stage. It's just the reality of it. Now, could they surprise me? Yes, and it takes a win, and Saudi Arabia had a win against Argentina. It can happen.
Saudi Arabia is better than Qatar.
They are. No, they are.
Their starters are fine, but they have no depth.
Yeah. But, I think that Bosnia could cause Canada problems. I can see that being a 1-1 draw. I think you're right. It comes down to that game 3 in Switzerland versus Canada. Whoever wins the group. It's going to be a little bit tough for Canada, even with the home crowd and stuff there. Honestly, the Swiss have a very talented squad, and they've got not high, a ton of super high-end talent, but they've got a lot of very good players that they can have on the bench.
The Xhaka effect, seriously. They've got good enough guys to really upset you early on. They've got guys who are kind of better at most things than what Canada's got throughout their roster, and I wouldn't want to face them having to do anything other than maybe get a draw. And that would be a really, really tough final opponent if Canada needs 3 points somehow.
Does it... Look, this is a little more general topic, and I think maybe just a good place to talk a little bit generally. Does it feel to you guys like it's the 6 or 7 favorites and then a glut of teams, and then there's obviously a couple stragglers who are just kind of there to be there. You know what I mean? And Switzerland kind of feels like they're in maybe the top end of that glut of teams. If you told me they made a semifinal, I don't think I would be shocked. If you told me they lost in the round of 16, I don't think I would be shocked either.
I would be surprised if they made it to a semifinal, but I wouldn't be shocked. I'm just saying,
less surprised than Morocco.
So much of what's difficult about this is just the permutations of who you play and where you play them, right? People talk about this with England, where if England don't win their group, they could end up facing Mexico in a knockout match at Azteca, and the English national team does not have a lot of fond memories of that stadium. So that England could be easily make a semifinal, right? Like they would be one of the teams in that conversation of almost more surprising if they didn't than if they did. But then if they lose in the quarters or whatever to Mexico at the Azteca, then it's a whole different ballgame. And the permutations of how teams can advance and who you'd end up facing in your path forward. The USMNT have a fairly favorable path forward. From what I remember, I think that Canada have a much more difficult path. Like I think they would end up against like Argentina pretty soon. They hit some real heavyweights early on in the knockout rounds if they were to advance.
There's no easy path. There's way too many good teams. I'm just scrolling through right now, and you just see so many groups where even the third place game, you're like, who really is going to get this? And you still have some of those smaller places where maybe they can steal a result somehow, and it just kind of creates chaos. Like Curacao are such an underdog in that group that some teams are going to overthink them, but they're also going to play into the goal differential factor, and that's going to really throw things into a real bind at the end.
And to draw it back to the United States, right? That is where I look at Paraguay and Australia, and it's like either of those teams could beat the other, right? And either of those teams could force a draw against the United States, if not outright steal a game. And that's where it's like, oh man, like if let's say, I don't know, I'm not gonna get into all the permutations, but like it's a
the margins are thin. I think is your point.
Yeah.
The margins are fine, right? Like is the U.S. overall a more talented squad and a better squad than Paraguay? Yes. Does that translate to a win on the day? Absolutely not a guarantee.
But well put. Fellas, okay, now I think that is maybe a good place for us to wrap. I do want to do, we normally do, Joe, I don't know how often you listen. I won't make you answer the question.
I listen all the time.
That's really nice. I didn't like,
don't quiz him
we
on
have
it.
video now, right? No, the two things we always do is call, what's your, who you got and who's your spark. So I want to give us all the opportunity, but instead of who you got, because that's an obvious one, you can give it if you want. I want a dark horse. Who's a team you're watching, whether because you think it's fun or you think they could make a little bit of a run to a quarterfinal when you wouldn't expect it, and then a player you're watching, again, could be fun, could be this guy's a real difference maker on a team that needs it.
Sounds good. Please don't make me go first.
Yeah, okay, man, I was thinking the same thing.
Let me go. I'll go first. So I think it'll probably be like France, right? Or something like that. But
France I was telling Caleb, we said this the other day, like France is going to explode or implode, and if they explode, then they will end up winning the whole thing, and if they implode, they could like potentially like be going home after the round of 16 or 32 or something wild like.
I really liked England until I saw their roster. Excuse me, sorry guys.
Yeah, Thomas Tuchel is working for Germany after all.
Yeah, the team I'm really interested in. You just pointed out, Tim, a good way for them to potentially end up in the semifinal is Mexico. Like, I think we're discounting what the home crowd could mean, especially if they're playing their games in Mexico. Right, that's massive. And it is a talented side, right? They haven't necessarily put it all together, but I mean, we talked about it with the Fire at times of they're not necessarily losing because they're worse. They're just beating themselves. And if you stop beating yourself, you've got an opportunity.
And they got talent they didn't have throughout the cycle before, right? Like Brian Gutiérrez has just been playing phenomenal. Like Gilberto Mora is already being listed. Like I'm sure they are selling a ton of jerseys over the past few weeks of him, and he could easily be the young player of the tournament.
100%. And then the guy, I love Serginho Dest. Serginho Dest, I think, is the highest ceiling, most talented American player alive at the moment. I think between him and Jedi, you have maybe the best fullback pairing in the world. I'm biased, obviously, but I'm excited to watch Serginho Dest go out there and ball. So those are mine. Tim, you have to go because Joe's the guest, so we have to be polite to him.
All right. I am going to say Ivory Coast, right? Like they're in that group with Ecuador, Germany, and Curacao. I feel like that's a tough group to get first or second in. They could surprise Ecuador. Like they could potentially finish second. Curacao, we talked about, who knows? Like they could end up not advancing. But I just think that they've got the talent, they've got the ability, they've been playing well, and they could end up. I could easily see them making a much longer run than anyone's thought about. And I mean, that'd be cool to see, right? Like, I love seeing, I think most of us do, unless they're beating your team on the way there, seeing one of these underdog teams do it. One other, like, just mention I want to make with that is, Cabo Verde in their first ever World Cup. I mean, I know it's a squad that was more imported than produced, but for what that country's, like just the trajectory for what that could mean for the country is huge. And kind of the same thing with Haiti, right? Like any of those could easily be everyone's second favorite team throughout the tournament. And I hope that we get to see one of them make some noise, because that would just be fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams like that. I feel like a lot of small countries, first time.
That's the cool thing about the extended
It's just
going to
be fun to watch. Like, you want them to win because, oh my gosh, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, exactly. And wait, I gotta name a player to watch? Does it have to be a USMNT player? Or
No. I mean, whatever you want.
I mean, Gilberto Moro, he's just as maybe the obvious one, but I just think he could be. He's not a name that anyone was really thinking about, 18 months ago, 12 months ago even, and he could suddenly be a name that is on the, front of like the tip of everyone's tongue. Like, he could be playing in Europe. Like, he's in Tijuana, which is not a traditional, or now powerhouse of Liga MX, right? What's Joe's? What was that hand gesture? I didn't get
Cholos, baby.
Oh, I didn't know that was the Cholos thing.
It's not.
Okay, I'm like, I've been to a match there, and like I don't remember anybody doing that. Like, maybe I wasn't paying attention. I don't know.
You guys don't remember Lean Like a Cholo?
Side to side, elbows up. I think I could sing the entire thing, if I'm being honest, and I'm a little disappointed in myself.
Pop Champagne, Jules Santana.
You were calling us old earlier, and you're making like rap references from when I was young. Like, I don't even know how you know.
I was young then too, Tim. I don't know.
Were you were you in preschool?
No, but my brothers are older, so I was probably in like first grade, third grade. Who knows, Joe?
All right.
You have to answer the question now, legally speaking.
All right. Let me give you my team.
Contractually obligated. Have you been writing notes this whole time?
J. No, I just...
The only thing I wrote down was...
I do have my notebook.
The time that we had the thing.
Algeria. Group J. Argentina is going to be a tough team, right? Like, they're going to win the group. But it's Austria and Jordan otherwise. I see 6 points for Algeria. This is a really good team, top 30 ranked in FIFA for a reason. They've got a lot of talent. Like, there's the Hakimi of it all, sure, right? Like, he's been on the team recently. No, he's not. I've said that wrong. But it's just been a team that I think could really break through. I was thinking of Riyad Mahrez. My bad. That's a bad screw up. But they've got talent, they've got veterans, right? But they're really, really a tough team to break down. They don't give up a lot of goals, and I think they could be a team, one of those second-place teams that nobody's going to want to face in the knockout rounds. And then for my player, I'm stuck between two, and they're really boring options, if I'm being honest. But Sweden has an opportunity to be, if nothing else, a pain to play against because they have Alexander Isak and Victor Gyökeres, right? And if you have to go against both of those guys, you should have a tough time, right? Like, they should be good enough. And I think those two together are going to be, like, I don't believe in this Sweden group very much at all. Like, that team, I don't believe in it. Graham Potter being the coach, I just don't see it. But those two are so talented that I think they can lift a mediocre Sweden team into, a win in the knockout rounds, which I don't think many people are expecting.
A lot to unpack with that Sweden analysis. That was an IKEA joke.
You know what they say. You know a joke's good when you have to explain it.
I hate myself so much.
Joe, my only critique of your Algeria pick, they didn't bring Ryan Coley. So I don't really know what to make of the staff and the federation at large.
Well, they didn't bring my buddy Camille Negley either, so it can happen.
You know what they say. They think it don't be like it is. But it do.
Yeah, that's exactly what they say in Algeria.
I don't know what they do up there. Anywho, look, I think that that puts us in about as good a place as any to leave it. The last thing I'll tell the folks at home is, look, if you're a betting person, if you're a market predicting person, guys, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm like 89% sure about this. There's never been a team led by a foreign coach that won the World Cup. It's always lined up. It's always been coached from the country. So,
yeah, that's the stat. But I mean, only if you teams have won, like only a few nations have won the World Cup. It's small sample size, all that. Come on.
Tim, can I talk? We'll talk after this. We'll talk in my office after this. Ridiculous. No, I'm not just having fun. Anywho, Joe, this is just, look, this is how it is. We're not talking fire. We get to cut loose. Thank you guys for tuning in. Joe Chatz of On Tap Sportsnet and WLS joining us today. Joe, do you want to tell people where they can find you and all the things you do?
Yeah, I'm going to be posting a lot on Instagram at Joe Chatz Sports. Follow me there for a lot of stuff because I'm not posting a million things in a million places during the World Cup. So if you want to see what I'm getting up to in some locations, both domestic and abroad, follow me there. We'll be having some fun.
Love it, Joe. Thank you as always for
having
joining us here. It's wonderful to have you. Another smiling face in the crowd, as it were. Okay, sorry, Tim. We'll keep it moving. Gosh.
No, I'm sorry. I'm looking at something else. It's
I know we're just.
Sorry, we're not going to get Joe. Like Joe's not going to. It's just going to miss the entire first quarter at this point, which is what it is.
I don't care. I care about inside the NBA more than anything.
There you go.
Fair.
A true media's man.
Charles needs a street meet. Like, it is what it is. They're in New York. You just muted yourself, John.
How did I manage to do that? Who knows? I'm an idiot.
Great shape area.
Yeah, look, hey, thank you so much for suffering through whatever this was. We had a lot of fun, so hopefully you all listening had fun as well. Thanks for tuning in. A little bit of World Cup talking, and there was some Chicago Fire in there. I think it was all relative and good. As always, you can stay tuned to meninred97.com. It's where you can find all the latest updates as things move along, as reportedly there's some Scottish guy out there that the Fire could be looking at. Who knows? You're not staying plugged in, Joe? You got a little confused look on your face? Anyway, stay tuned to meninred97.com. You can follow us on social media at meninred97 and at Joe Chatz Sports. That's where you'll find Joe, and that's where you'll find Tim and I for the most part. We'll keep you up to date on all the latest and greatest breaking news for Chicago Fire and some other football as well. See, I said football. We can say football and soccer. And wherever you're listening to this, if you go ahead and like, subscribe, rate, share, whatever it gives you the option to do, if you could please do it, it goes a long way. Thank you so much for being here, for Tim, for Joe Chatz, for our illustrious producer, Austin. I'm John. Thank you so much for joining us around the bonfire, and come on, you men.